how robots are used to make science speedy and safe. So I'm sure that all of you have seen loads of movies with robots in, so you might recognise the Terminator at the bottom there, although you shouldn't have seen that movie, you're a bit young to see that, but you might recognise this evil warrior robot. And I'm sure lots of you will have seen Star Wars, and then that's actually a movie called Robots on the right there, so again, some of you might have seen that one. That's more of a comedy. And the thing about these robots is they usually have their own personalities. They can usually think for themselves. And we're not quite yet, we're not quite there in real life. We don't quite have robots that can completely think for themselves. But robots can do pretty amazing things. And maybe one day we will actually have robots which are a little bit more like these science fiction type movies. So I bet loads of you have seen the movie WALL-E, or WALL-E. Just in case you haven't, let's have a quick reminder. So, this little robot is the last of his kind, and humans, basically, in this imaginary future, messed up the planet so much that they went off in a spaceship and left it. They left these robots to clear up all the junk, and you can see WALL-E is making these cubes of junk and trying to tidy up. But unlike all the other robots, WALL-E's actually got a personality, and you can see he's interested in things, he's got a sense of humour, doesn't always know what has value and what doesn't. So if he finds something like a diamond ring, he might throw it away, as you'll see in a second. Doesn't know that the diamond's worth anything. Thinks the box is much more interesting because it has a flap on it. Okay. So WALL-E's building this massive big tower of these blocks, and he's not being affected by the pollution because he's a robot. So unlike a human being who might feel ill or have breathing problems or something, look at WALL-E continually building his tower of blocks. Working all day, not needing a weekend, not needing tea breaks or anything like that. So the advantage of using robots, let me just pause that, is that they're not affected by things like pollution. They don't get asthma, they don't have skin that's sensitive to different chemicals and things. So sometimes we use robots in real life for just that reason. So if we look at a science lab here, this would be a lab where something very dangerous is being worked with, and this scientist has this very special, slightly silly looking suit. Doesn't look very comfortable, does it? And that suit will actually be supplied with its own air supply. So whatever he's doing in that room is probably quite dangerous, and it might be a nasty disease, or it might be a nasty chemical or something like that. So he's even got his own air supply, and you can see these little things down at the bottom here are called pipettes, and that will be for transferring a very small amount of liquid, so for example a blood sample from one place to another. So it would take a scientist a very long time to do that, and we're going to think about why you might use robots to do some of these jobs. Another reason that you might use robots is because sometimes it's humans that can contaminate the products that they're working on. So computer chips are incredibly fragile, and we humans, we're constantly shedding skin and things, so a lot of the dust that we have in our homes is actually little bits of dead skin, and that could get into the computer chips. And then we constantly secrete, we give off a little bit of oil on our fingers, so if you ever noticed how you can sometimes leave a fingerprint on something, it doesn't mean that your hands are dirty, it just means that you've got this natural oil on your fingers, and of course if that gets into a computer chip, that can damage it as well. So sometimes we use robots to protect ourselves, and sometimes we use robots because we might actually damage what they're working on. So if we have a look at this example, here we have got a robotic setup which can very, very quickly get little bits of liquid, a little bit like we saw the scientist doing, but it can do 96 at a time. Look how quickly it does it, and then it puts a very small amount of liquid into different places, it cleans itself, and it does it incredibly quickly. So it can do, in about a minute and a half, it can do what it would take the scientist maybe an hour to actually do. So much, much quicker to use a robot, much more accurate. Look at that, it can fill all those little tips up with liquid all at the same time. It can empty them at the same time. And of course, it doesn't need a tea break, it doesn't need to have weekends off, etc. So the robot can just continue to keep on working all the way through. This is another type of robot, so this is a robot arm, and let's turn the music off. With the robot arm, it has to be programmed incredibly specifically, so it's got to the nearest, half a millimetre, it's got to move and pick things up, pick samples up, put them into slots like that. And again, if a scientist were doing this, the scientist would maybe work 7 6 or 7 hours in the day. This robot arm could work for 24 hours every day of the week if you wanted it to. I guess it would need maintenance at some time, but you can see that the robot can continue to work. It's incredibly accurate, it's very, very quick, doesn't make mistakes generally, and also if we are working here with something that's quite dangerous like bacteria or something like that, or radioactive compounds, radioactive substances, then the robot itself won't be damaged by that. So we've had a little think about different ways that robots might be used to help humans to make things faster and to keep things safe. Today you are going to be doing some programming of your own.
So now we've thought about the scientific reasoning behind why we need robots. Our task next is going to be to design a robot. We need to think about how we could do that. We need to start by thinking about what we need the robot to do. So robots do all sorts of things. You're going to be thinking about designing a robot to move hazardous material. There's one here in the video which is a hazmat robot used by the fire and safety departments in the US. It needs to pick up objects from one place, move them to another place, and to do that safely with whatever the material is. We've got a few things that we need to start thinking about in order to design our robot properly. Firstly, the materials. What should the robot be made of? Think about different materials that you know, and how could you use those materials to make something which is strong and which will last in hazardous environments and be able to do its job properly. The cost. How much should it cost to make the robot? And that's going to be governed by what materials it's made of and how it's made. Think about what you want it to do and how much maybe that should cost. The aesthetics. What should it look like? You can see the pictures there at the top of the screen. You've got a bright red one there used by as a hazmat robot, another black one. They both look quite sleek, quite nice. What should your robot look like? How could you change its aesthetics? The function. What does it need to do? Thinking about the function is going to be key to what it actually does. So you need to think about what you want it to do and what it's then going to look like and how you're going to design it. Size. How big should it be? Now that depends on what you're thinking of moving around, and we'll leave that up to you to choose. You need to think about how big you want your robot to be. So pause the video now, and on a piece of paper, have a go at drawing a robot that meets the requirements we've just talked about. So I want you to draw your design and then annotate it. That means label it with details about things like the materials and the function and the size. We would love to see what you've designed, so it'd be great if you could take a photo of your work and email it in to transition@sst.viat.org.uk. We'd love to see what you've been doing. Now that you've drawn your robot, we're going to have a go at programming a robot online using a website, vr.vex.com. I'll just play you this video which explains a bit more about how that works. So when you get to the website, it will look like this. Now, if you don't recognize any of these sorts of shapes in order to code something, then what you'll need to do is go to tutorials up the top here, and there's some information on how to do things like driving forward and backwards, turning, and using more complex things like using loops. And I'd strongly recommend you start with some of these in order to get you going. I'm just going to show you a very simple program just to test the robot. So we're going to program it just to drive forward to start with, and at any point you can test to see what your program's doing by pressing this start button up the top here. It loads the playground and then it will show us what's going on. So here's our little robot just driving forwards, and because I haven't told it to do anything else in our program, it's just going to drive forward and it will keep doing that until it falls out of the space. What we're actually going to be using is the disk mover grid instead of just this blank one. This is because we want to do things like moving an object from one place to another. So here we go, we've got different objects, different colours which need to be placed into the different coloured boxes. But again, if I can just play that, you'll see it's just set it to drive forward, so it's just going to drive forward, it's not going to pick anything up, and eventually it would just fall out of the playground again. So we'll stop that, and we need to make some changes now to our program. So instead of just driving forward forever, I'm going to swap that for driving forward for a certain amount of time. Now what we've got in here is a distance, so we've got 200 millimeters. That's 1 square on the grid that we had. So I can show you that on here. So as it goes, this time it will just move 1 square and then stop. So you see it's gone from that point to there. Now we need to go 1, 2, 3, 4 squares to get to this first blue dot. So that's going to be 800 millimeters. But in order to pick up the object, instead of going 800 meters in one go, I'm actually going to do 600 millimeters. Then I'm going to turn on the magnet, so just by using the different options here, there's loads of options here. And the magnet, I'm going to energize the magnet to boost. Now will pick something up. If you want to drop it, you can use that option there. So we're going to turn on the magnet, and then we're going to drive forward again the remaining 200 millimeters to get to that first blue dot. When we get to that point, we're going to need to turn around. So we're going to turn the heading, and this time we want to turn all the way around, so we're going to go to 180 degrees. That will turn us back in the direction we came. And now we're going to drive forward, which is coming back down the grid, and this time we want to go the full 800 millimeters to get back to where we started. So let's have a look at what this is doing now. So it's driving forwards, and you can see what the highlighted bits are there. It's picked it up and it's returning, and it's got back to that point. What we need to do now is drop the object, so releasing the magnet. So we can do that by, at this point, energizing the magnet to drop, and that's going to drop it at that point. Okay, so that's just going to pick up one object, turn around and come back and drop it off back in the grid. Here it goes, picks it up, turns around, and that has actually dropped it. You can't tell because it's still underneath the robot there. Okay, now what you could then do next is add on similar sorts of things here to turn the robot back around and drive again to pick up the next one. Okay, what you can think about is how, instead of using these set distances, maybe you could do some sensing, so you can make it drive until the camera, and it will be the down eyes, the one you need, detects a colour. So when it detects a blue one, then that's when it turns around and does what it needs to do. So have a go yourselves at the program there on the VEX website and see if you can make the robot pick up each of the blue objects and return them to the blue square. Now you can use the same kind of pattern that I used if you like, or there are much better ways of doing that using loops and things where you can make it sense the colours and return them to the right place. So have a go at that. If you can get that one done successfully, why not have a go at programming it to pick up one of each colour and then putting them in the right place on the grid. When you've done both of those, take a video of your robots in motion and send them in to transition@sst.viac.org.uk. We'd love to see what you've done again. If you've enjoyed looking at different robots and things, there's a couple of videos here, one from Festo Robotics, one from Boston Dynamics. Both of those are worth a search online. They do some great robots at the moment, producing lots of different things. Festo Robotics do what's called biomimicry, where they copy animals. So you can see there's a kind of fishy shaped one there, and they do all sorts of things. So have a look at their website. It's well worth a look. Thanks. Hope you've enjoyed it.